You are listening to the Pens Nation radio show on thepensnation.com. Follow us on Twitter at @thepensnation.
First round of the Stanley Cup playoffs are officially over as of last night. I had 3 Game 7s. A lot of exciting hockey in the NHL last night, where we saw the Minnesota Wild and the Los Angeles Kings and the New York Rangers all moved on, won their Game 7s. And you know what that means? The New York Rangers now will face the Pittsburgh Penguins starting tomorrow night. A quick turnaround for the New York Rangers. Welcome to the Pens Nation radio show, everyone. I'm Andy Hughes, joined by Nick Richter, Whiskey Johnston, and Casey Shea as well. Casey Shea is the senior web producer and author of the Shaved Ice blog on kdka.com. And Casey, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, no problem at all. And just so you know, since Casey Johnston is usually on the show, we have to call him Whiskey. Are you okay with that, Whiskey?
This is not a surprise to me.
It shouldn't be. It totally shouldn't be,
yeah.
That's for sure. We've been pushing for this for quite some time, actually.
Yeah, maybe this will be like a full-time thing now. I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know if Whiskey would be okay with that, but...
No, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. But moving on here, we'll preview the Penguins and Rangers series. Obviously, this one is going to be an exciting one. The Penguins avoid playing the Philadelphia Flyers in the second round. This will be the first time the Rangers and Penguins have met since the 2008 season. You remember that they faced each other in the second round that year as well. Penguins won it in 5 games, a la Marian Hossa. Marian Hossa had the big overtime winner. That was a great series, but fast forward a little bit now, and these two teams are much different now. Obviously, both teams have new coaches. Back then, Terrien was with the Penguins, and the Rangers now have Alain Vigneault. Penguins have Dan Bilesman now. So a lot of different changes, obviously, with the players as well. Casey, when you look at this matchup, how do you like this matchup for the Penguins? Obviously, we know with the Flyers, it was probably going to be, a lot of mind games and things like that. But, the Rangers, they have a lot of high-end talent. Alain Vigneault, his system, it's a lot of speed. And, I think that the Penguins, I think they're a team that kind of likes to play that kind of style, and the Rangers are going to try to outskate the Penguins. And I think the Penguins are okay with that, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. We were kind of joking around at work a little bit today, saying that the Rangers kind of reminded us at least of maybe like a bigger and better version of the Columbus Blue Jackets, just with how fast they play the game, and they've got big bodies up front that can make life a little bit tough for some of the Penguins defensemen. They're going to get in on the forecheck, and that was kind of the one thing that Columbus did very well in that series. So to me, it's still going to be. Going into the series, I kind of looked at it and went, "Who do you want to play? Do you want to play Philly or do you want to play New York?" And from a hockey standpoint, I would rather have seen the Penguins get this matchup because, like you said, if they were to play Philadelphia, I think, like to a man, I think they had a better team than Philadelphia. But as we've seen over the last few years, Philadelphia gets in their head and the Penguins just implode for whatever reason. The one thing I was impressed with in the first round with the Penguins was how I guess the maturity level that they showed as far as all the stuff that happened after the whistle. How many times did Brandon Dubinsky try and get Sidney Crosby to bite on something, and Sid skated away? For the most part, everybody skated away. Now I know Crystal Tang had a couple issues early on in the first couple games, but as a whole, the team just kind of all skated away. They did their thing and ended up moving on. Now, would they have been able to do that against Philly? I don't know. But against New York, from a hockey standpoint, I think it's a better matchup. I don't see the Rangers as being as big a pest to the Penguins in this series, and I think that the matchups, I think they match up a little bit better just from a hockey standpoint than they would have against Philadelphia, but that's me.
You know, you mentioned the whole kind of mental aspect of this, and we do see that the New York Rangers have a couple of guys that can get under your skin kind of quickly. Daniel Carcillo being one of those. He had a great goal last night, just a one-touch goal to kind of was it the go-ahead goal last night? I think it was. I think that put him ahead 2-1, actually, behind the back pass to Daniel Carcillo for the game-winning goal. He's a guy that the Pens are very familiar with. They drafted him. They had him in the system for a while, and then he gets kind of traded out west, and then plays out in Philadelphia. So they're quite familiar with him. Now he's playing with the New York Rangers, and he's scoring big, timely goals, and he's playing good playoff hockey. Guys like that could really get under the skin of this team, can't they?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you got to look at some of those guys, and even, a guy, whether it's like a Dominic Moore, who is going to always be in and around the play. Not so much like an in-your-face kind of style, but he's always going to be hard on the forecheck. I mean, we saw him when he was here, just the way he played. And, I mean, I always kind of respected that. But you get guys like that. And like I said, it comes down to me as a composure issue, that if the Penguins can kind of avoid getting sucked in like they did in the first round, just skate away, let them, if they want to take penalties, they want to take liberties after the whistle, let them. The Penguins power play, I think, is proven enough over the course of the year as a body. If you take the whole body of work as a whole, I think the Penguins power play has shown that they're lethal when they're on, and if you give them enough chances, they're going to bury you. So I think it's advantageous for the Penguins that if Dan Carcillo wants to try and go around and start stuff, go ahead and let him. He's going to take penalties because, I mean, we've obviously seen what he's done in Philadelphia. We've seen what he's done in his career. Just looking him up, he's got 6 penalty minutes so far already this year, and that's in a 7-game series, so it's not terrible. But if he starts taking stupid penalties, it gives the Penguins even more of an advantage.
Yeah, it certainly does. And looking here at the schedule, this is really rough on the New York Rangers, as they will play tomorrow, and obviously got done last night with their Game 7, and they're going to be a tired group. Casey, how big of a story is this? I mean, how important is it for the Penguins to get off to a great start? Because I think they have a great opportunity here with, I think what the Rangers would play, 5 games in 7 days or something like that. I mean, that is unheard of. We've seen, sometimes teams have played 3 games in 4 days or something like that, but 5 and 7, that's a lot. And I mean, how crucial is it for the Penguins to get off to the crucial start and take advantage of this opportunity here, knowing that, hey, the Rangers may be a little tired at this point?
Well, I mean, I think the Penguins know. I mean, and they, we're all talking about it at practice and stuff. They're saying how important it was. To me, I couldn't believe that this was actually going to be a 5-game and 7-day thing. When I saw the schedule come out, I kind of scoffed initially, saying, well, they're going to play, back-to-back Sunday, Monday, and, they couldn't even give the Penguins and Rangers the benefit of having the afternoon game on Sunday. So what happens if that game goes long? Like, let's say it's an OT game. Now you have travel involved up to New York with the game following the next night. The Rangers are already playing Game 6 and 7 back to back. It's going to be, to me, the series could be determined within the first 3 games. If the Penguins can jump on them and expose the fact of how tiring and how grueling 5 playoff games are in that short of a time frame, I think it sets up better for them to advance out of this round. If they let the Rangers hang around, if this is if they even, let's say they're down 2-1 after 3 games, I'm not going to feel real confident about the series. They need to absolutely come out tomorrow night and show, that they're the more prepared team from having those extra couple of days of rest, and take it to them. If they come out sluggish tomorrow, and still fail to play a 60-minute game like they've struggled with for, I guess, since Sochi for the most part, if they go down that road again and they give the Rangers any hope, it's going to be problematic for them. The schedule makers have given them, basically a gift at this point, and it could be. I didn't really check to see what was going on at MSG. Like, I thought there was a Billy Joel concert or something on Friday, I think, up there, but. I mean, I don't understand why they went Sunday, Monday with it. There has to be some reason, but there's just this opportunity that the Penguins have right now, is just unprecedented to me. And if the Penguins were to advance and make a quick series of it, I think all the Ranger fans and the media and whatever else is going to jump all over the schedule, being a major factor in this. So absolutely, it could be a major factor if the Penguins take advantage of it.
Yeah, it certainly is, and it's going to be really interesting to see. And obviously, a lot of people talking about Henrik Lundqvist and how good this guy has been. Obviously, one of the best goaltenders in the NHL. And when you get to the second round of the playoffs, you're going to be facing a lot of good goaltenders. But I think King Henrik is definitely one of the best. But for some reason, the Penguins have played well against him. Do you kind of expect that to be the case? Obviously, he's had a solid year. I mean, there definitely was some points where some people were worried about him a little bit, but this is a guy that he can step up at any time, and when he is on his game, he is really tough to beat.
Looks like we're having a couple difficulties here.
I think we lost Casey.
It's looking like it there, yeah.
I was going to say, I didn't know if anyone could hear me or not, but...
You're in a time vacuum there.
Yeah. Well, Whiskey, what do you think about Henrik Lundqvist? I mean, how important is that going to be? Obviously, because, as I said, this is a guy that can really just step up at any time, and when he's on his game, he's tough to beat, and the Penguins are going to have to throw a lot of pucks at him.
Well, and the Penguins are good at throwing pucks at Henrik Lundqvist throughout his career. I think he has a sub 900 save percentage against the Penguins. So beating him is definitely the key. But, he is one of the best goalies in the NHL, and he's definitely good enough to steal a couple games for the Rangers. Is he good enough to steal a series? I don't know. That depends on how Evgeny Malkin and Sidney Crosby do. Malkin has 7 points in 6 games, but that's because he had a hat trick in Game 6. Sidney Crosby is a point-per-game player in the playoffs, but he hasn't scored a goal. Now, the advanced metrics, the fancy stats, so to speak, suggest that, that's gonna change for the both of them. So, is Henrik Lundqvist good enough to beat the two of them when they're on their game? I don't know. We're going to see.
We certainly will. And you mentioned Crosby and Malkin, and I do believe we have Casey Shea back. But looking a key matchup here for me is you look at the projected lineup, for the Rangers, especially in the middle there. Derek Stepan, Derek Broussard, Brad Richards, Dominic Moore. Now, it looks like Brandon Sutter is going to be okay. He's been practicing with the team. Looks like he'll be a go, so that is huge for the Penguins. And Casey, how big of an advantage do the Penguins have here when you look at just the centermen from the Penguins and then to the Rangers? When we looked at the Flyers and the Rangers and trying to pick which team we'd rather face, the Flyers have some guys like Sean Couturier who drives Evgeny Malkin nuts. And there's just some matchup issues there. But here I feel like the Penguins' depth at center could be a real big advantage when you look at the Rangers. Not that, they have terrible centermen, but it just feels like a better matchup there, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, if you look at how the Rangers... I'm just blanked on hard on this, but the face-off numbers alone were not in favor of New York in that last series, if I remember correctly, which gives the Penguins obviously an advantage because you trot out a guy like even a guy like Joe Vitale, who people don't give him enough credit, but he was the best Penguin or the best face-off guy for the Penguins all year. Now you've got guys like Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin. If you want to move him there, there's a whole bunch. I mean, they've got so many guys that they can plug in at the center role if necessary to gain matchups that they feel are favorable for them. And puck possession is obviously a huge part of the playoffs, and if you can win faceoffs, then that's going to lead right into to the whole puck possession advantage. So to me, if you've got enough guys on the team that can win faceoffs, like the Penguins do, then it's going to give you an advantage at any time of year, whether or not it's the playoffs or not. So in that regard, then yeah, the Penguins should have a clear advantage at the center role, and being how deep they are down the line or down through the lineup 1 through 4. That's basically what helped them, get to the Cup back-to-back years, back in 08 and 09. And granted, is Brandon Sutter the same, caliber as Jordan Staal? Like, no, but he's still capable of winning draws, and he's been winning them very frequently. At least from what I can tell, anyway, in the first round.
Yeah, so definitely some interesting points there, and Kunitz, Crosby, Stempniak, Jokinen, Malkin, Neal, Bennett, Sutter, Vitale, Glass, Gotch, and Adams were your 4 lines in practice today. Paul Martin with Chris Letang, Oli Mata with Matt Niskanen, and Rob Scuderi with Robert Bortuzzo. Orpik, once again, absent from practice today, so not exactly sure what his availability will be tomorrow, but doesn't look very promising. But the Penguins' the last series in Columbus there, Penguins really started, especially later on, they got really good at even strength. And to me, a big thing in this series is going to be special teams. And boy, the New York Rangers really, really struggled in terms of special teams. In the 7 games, their power play percentage 10.3. That is really, considering the weapons that they have on that team, that's inexcusable. They cannot continue to do that. But the Penguins, their penalty kill hasn't been all that great either. So 74.1% penalty killing percentage for the Penguins in the postseason, and the Rangers, they're at 71.4. So what do you expect there on special teams, Casey? I mean, I think that's going to be a big part of this series, as it is for, I guess, every playoff series. But New York definitely. I mean, with the talent that they have, their numbers should be a lot better, shouldn't they?
They should be, yeah. I mean, the one thing that's been worrying me, and I think it's a rather well-known thing at this point, but the one thing that's been worrying me with the Penguins' penalty kill is how they're just allowing people to just camp out in front of Marc-Andre Fleury. I mean, I'm not sure what the full strategy with that is. I mean, to me, if you're going to let that happen, you'd be a lot more aggressive. With the forwards trying to pinch out on the defense, or on the defense of the power play, but you don't really see a whole lot of that. To me, it's just kind of like, all right, we've got our box, and we'll rotate around and kind of make it difficult to make the cross ice pass through the box, but yet we'll leave anybody and everybody just kind of hanging out in front of Fleury. And then people start to wonder, well, how are these pucks getting by, and how are their rebounds and everything? Well, it's because Fleury literally can't see the puck. That's how you score goals in the postseason. So I wish they would clear the crease out a little bit more. I think that's one area that they could use some work on. But the Rangers have guys that'll go to the net. I mean, a guy, whether it's Brian Boyle or whatever it is, like, they'll end up camping out there all day long. It doesn't matter. Like, that's where those guys make their living. So I mean, that's one little area that I'm a little concerned with. But for the most part, if it comes down to special teams, I like the Penguins' chances if it comes down to special teams. But we'll see how composed they want to be with all the extracurricular activities.
All right, I've been getting a question from some people, and I don't have an answer to it. And it has to do with the penalty kill. The guy in front of the net screening Fleury has been a problem all season. How did they finish 5th in the league? I've been telling people they're really good at blocking shots. I don't have a better answer for them.
I mean, to me, that seems like the best answer I could come up with, too. I mean, they do. When you put guys out there like Tanner Glass, down the stretch was having a couple of hero shift games where, he's just laying down and, he goes to the bench, really doubled over in pain, but he comes right back out there and lays down again in front of shots. I mean, it seems like they are blocking more shots this year, but I still can't stand, and I can't wrap my head around why you would let somebody camp out in front of your goaltender. I mean, not that playing high school hockey or men's league or whatever as a goalie at times, like that's just sort of like where I'm looking at it from. Like, if it was me, like, I'd be chopping people down, but I don't see Fleury doing that either. It just seems like he's kind of content, and he's kind of like sort of learned to, maybe how to look around a little bit better, or try and find ways that, whether it's looking through, the guy's legs, or he's looking around or peeking or whatever it is. But it just seems like you're playing with fire doing that. And it just seems like to me, when the Penguins have struggled on the penalty kill, that's been a major contribution, or like a contributing factor to it, is that there's traffic, pucks are getting through and they're not getting blocked, and Fleury has no chance.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be something to watch, and I'm definitely a little bit concerned with the penalty kill as well. So we'll have to see how they match up against the Rangers there. A lot of good players, and with that, we'll exclude the goaltenders here. So Henrik Lundqvist, Marc-Andre Fleury. What are, I guess, Casey? What are the key player for each team in this series? That's why I'm excluding the goaltenders, because obviously, if Fleury, goes back to what he was, the past two postseasons, then obviously that's going to make a big difference. And Henrik Lundqvist is a guy who he could struggle or he could be dominant. So those are two guys. But I guess name a key player from each team, the Penguins and the Rangers. A lot of choices here with, obviously Crosby and Malkin have been talked about a lot, not scoring and all that. But I think Chris Letang is one I would consider, at least for the Penguins, because, it just seemed like when he has a bad game that the Penguins seem to have a bad game. But, man, 5 and 6 games 5 and 6 in that Columbus series, I thought Letang looked outstanding, and so did the Penguins. So, who would be your key players for this series on both sides?
Chris Letang could, when he's on. The reason I get frustrated with Letang is that he seems to, he has all the tools to warrant why he was a Norris finalist last year. He just consistently doesn't put it together, and he loses his head at times and gets out of position and relies a little bit too much on his speed and his athleticism to kind of get back into play. Like, he may, make a bad pinch that most guys wouldn't make, but he knows he can get back and kind of get away with it. The comparison I've always had, for at least recently anyway, for him, is that if you look back when Marc-Andre Fleury first came into the league, he was very much in that same sort of mentality. Look at his approach now. He's way more refined in the net. He's much more calm and just has a more calming presence in the net. You don't see him venture out too much, aside from Game 4, but we won't even talk about that. But he's taken a much more just reserved approach and relies on his athleticism much less than he did when he first came into the league. Now, if Chris Letang can reach that same level of maturity and understanding of what his skills are and how to better refine how to use his skills, he'll be an absolute dominant force on the back end. Not to say that he's, a bad defenseman now. He's just, the ceiling for him is so much higher than what he shows at times, and I think that's where a lot of the frustration with him comes in. So if he can keep his head like he did in games 5 and 6 and have that presence, he could absolutely be a major factor in the series for the Penguins. Now, for the Rangers, I look at a guy like Derek Stepan, who's, I don't know what I'd put him up there with, like the Marty St. Louis and Rick Nash and Brad Richards, but he's like that second tier, and he's very good. He's a guy that can put the puck in the back of the net. He's a guy that can set guys up. He's always dangerous. He just always seems to be around the play and making good things happen every time he steps over the boards. So to me, he's a guy that I'll be looking at. It's like, for me, I guess it'd be Chris Letang in this sense, like you said, and Derek Stepan.
What about you, Nick and Whiskey? Would you guys agree with that?
Overtime. I missed the question. I saw
just,
overtime.
The key players for the series from each team.
Man, St. Louis, yeah, and Richards, that makes a lot of sense. I think this could really come down between Marc-Andre Fleury and Henrik Lundqvist. I think this could be a really low-scoring series because both goalies have proven to play very good hockey over the past couple of weeks here. So, outside of that Game 4, obviously, but when these guys are on their game, they're two of the best in the league, and I think they could shut down pretty much any team. I'm
also going to go with Lundqvist, and for the Penguins, my key player for this series is going to be Crosby.
I thought you were going to say Sutter.
Yeah, I was too, actually.
No, it's going to be Crosby because I think the series is going to go for the Penguins based on how Crosby performs. And Lundqvist because he's he's good enough to stop Crosby from carrying the Penguins past them.
Yeah, he certainly is going to be a fun series to watch. New York Rangers, as I said, have Alain Vigneault as their coach now. As we're kind of going to transition over to some National Hockey League news. Good friend of the Penguins, John Tortorella, was fired today by the Vancouver Canucks. I wish we had that. We used to have a John Tortorella soundboard where we had a bunch of recordings when he kind of blew up at the media. Well, I forget. Was that 2 years ago, maybe, I think? Might have been 2012 when he did that, where he called the Penguins arrogant and all that. We used to have all kind of sound clips that we would play all the time. Wish we had that. But
that was my favorite John Tortorella moment.
It was wonderful. Yeah.
Well, the best thing about that moment, I mean, okay, it happened because who did Brooks Orpik knee? Was it Derek Stepan?
Girardi or Stepan?
Yeah, I was thinking it was one of those two. I can't remember.
Well, whoever it was, it really pissed off Tortorella. Yes. He went on that rant in the post game, ended up getting fined like $20,000 for it, and then that summer, Shanahan in a video used that as an example of a clean knee-on-knee collision.
Hilarious.
That was my favorite thing Shanahan has ever done. He trolled Tortorella and he used Orpik to do it.
That was awesome. Yeah, that was quite a. I mean, obviously, Tortorella was known for his blow-ups in the media and the press conference. So, he promised in Vancouver. He promised that he would be much better with that. I think he was. I think he was a little better. Not as many controversies, I guess, but except when he's going and trying to get into the Calgary Flames locker room, that's a bit of an issue. But that's
played good at times, struggle in certain areas.
And there he is. I had a feeling Nick was going to pull something up.
Yeah.
He did just that. But Tortorella was fired today. It's crazy. The guy signs a 5-year deal in the summer, and he lasts one season. And I mean, Casey, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, I don't think it's a huge surprise. I mean, you think, how can you fire a coach after 1 year and signing a 5-year deal? But I mean, things just went south for this team, the Vancouver Canucks. They had a ton of problems this year, and Tortorella was probably one of the bigger ones, I think. I mean, it's just pretty clear that there are a lot of issues in that locker room. And, hey, if you're going to clean house and, change a bunch of the top hockey operations guys, I mean, you might as well start over fresh and trying to get a new coach. I mean, talk about that. And do you think that Torts can get another head coaching job in the league? Obviously, he's won a cup, with the Tampa Bay Lightning. That was a great year for him, but recently, I mean, he has just been the center of so many controversies, and you just wonder if, that type of head coach that he is starting to become extinct in the NHL.
Yeah, I think he'll probably end up finding another job. I just think the situation in Vancouver this year, just obviously, like you said, it went south, and it went south in a hurry. I mean, injuries to some of their key players didn't help matters any, but they just never seemed to right the ship. And then I think the writing on the wall obviously came at the trade deadline when all of a sudden, like, Roberto Luongo's gone, and then there's all that talk about Ryan Kessler coming here. And, it's just that kind of stuff doesn't happen on a team that is on the up. For me, Tortorella hasn't done anything sort of relevant or meaningful other than making headlines by blasting reporters that ask him, a question because they're doing their job. If he's going to be surly about a guy asking him like why the team's in trouble, then maybe get out of the business, because that's what's going to happen no matter what city you go to. You'd think a guy that worked in New York, that's dealing with the New York media, which is relentless to begin with, Then you go to a city like Vancouver, which is in a hockey crazy city that nearly burned itself down after they lost to Boston. It's sort of like the same situation. Like, you had to know what you were getting into, and that you're still going to get hammered on all these questions all the time. But yet his media relation is just terrible. I mean, it's funny to watch like the YouTube clips and stuff. I mean, like, my favorite one of him was back when he was still with Tampa and he threw John Graham under the bus, like the 25% rule one. And it's just it's stuff like that like, yeah, it's funny to watch and all that kind of stuff. When you sit back and remove yourself from the humor of it, it's a head coach that's essentially just trashing his own team at any given chance that he can, or anybody that gets in his way, he just goes after. So I don't know. I think his time in the league, unless he let's say he signs on with somebody in this this offseason now, unless he does something within a couple of years with them, I don't know that there would be a position for him somewhere. Selfishly, I'm kind of hoping. I saw some stuff floating around earlier today, and we were joking around about it earlier too. But if he goes to Washington, like, what kind of dynamic would that be with him and Ovechkin? Just the possibility. I want a webcam set up in that locker room and at every practice. I mean, I'd never get any work done and I'd never leave my house or whatever, but it'd just be like constantly just waiting for the fireworks to show up, and then we kind of obviously you start spinning off from there, and you're like, well, maybe Ryan Miller will go to Washington because now, Halak's no longer there, and who knows? And it's just, I don't know, like the whole Tortorella thing, he fascinates me, but for all the wrong reasons, if that makes any sense.
It's a lot like Rob Ford. They need to hang out.
Yes, they do. That needs to happen.
That would mellow Torts out so much. Maybe not. Maybe it'd just amp him up.
Don't push me. Don't push me. Don't push me.
You just have Rob Ford be his assistant coach, and he would look so much more normal by default. He wouldn't even have to do anything. You'd be like, look, my assistant coach smoked crack,
He could be the David Spade to Rob Ford's Chris Farley.
John Tortorella. What a guy. Maybe he'll get a media relations job. That would be something. Well, I yelled at you for all these years, and now I'm going to be managing you. This is awkward.
Someone needs to make a reality TV show. If he doesn't get a coaching job, which I would find hard to believe, I could see him easily doing something like NBC or TSN or something like that. I mean, he's done some TSN stuff in the past, but I think he would be the perfect kind of fit for an NBC kind of broadcast, just kind of that meat-headed buffoon, old-school hockey guy.
Because NBC does not have that.
No,
yeah, I mean, not enough, right?
Just put the three monster out of him, Milbury, and JR, and just watch him go to town as Liam just sits there and shakes his head the whole time. But
oh God, I just had a nightmare about John Tortorella becoming America's Don Cherry. Oh my God. NBC's going to have Coach's Corner for the next 40 years.
What they really need to do is just do a reality TV show called Torts and Jorts, where you just spend the entire summer with Torts, fishing and hanging out with his dogs and stuff, wearing jorts.
He loves talking about his dogs. Apparently,
he does.
That's what Josh Uwe was saying. He says, when there's no cameras and things, he's one of the nicest guys ever. He'll show you pictures of his dogs on his phone and stuff. So, interesting character.
In a way, I almost feel bad for him right now because, he had to see this coming. As soon as the season ended, Mike Gillis is blaming the Aquilini family for hiring him. The Aquilini family is threatening to sue anyone who says that it was their idea to hire John Tortorella. I mean, how does he feel about himself? No one wants to claim ownership of him.
Yeah, but you can't feel too badly for the guy. I mean, he's getting paid for the next 4 years to do nothing if he chooses.
Must be nice.
Yeah. and just for what it's worth, my 2 cents, I don't think he gets a coaching job right away. I think he kind of does what Michelle Therrien did and just kind of sits around for a couple years before another team is willing to take a chance on him. I even said he might follow Mike Keenan to the KHL. You never know.
Magnitogorsk.
Yeah.
Penguins have the support of Magnitogorsk now.
Or maybe the German hockey league that Casey cheers for.
Hey, the DEL's where it's at, man. all these former Penguins that were showing up like all throughout the DEL playoffs, like Rico Fata, and it was just it was a sad day when Rico Fata signed on with the Wolfsburg Grizzly Adams. I just had nightmares and flashbacks of like curling up in the fetal position and be like, "There's no way you can miss an empty net that many times. There's no way."
Have you ever been to a game over there?
No, I haven't. It's sort of become a thing that I want to. I guess you could call it like a bucket list item or whatever. But I think Wolfsburg Stadium only holds like 4,700 people or something. So if that gives you a perspective as to how big hockey is over in Germany as it is, compared to here in Canada and other parts of the world. But
yeah, because I saw Adler Mannheim play, and it was not difficult to get tickets to.
It's like going to a Nailers game.
Oh,
kind of, yeah.
I mean, I was looking up prices the one day because, I don't know, just ticket price, see like what it would, I guess, generally cost. And I think it was only like €20 or something just to kind of get in, and that was for like a really good seat. But it wasn't terrible. So if someday I'm ever over in Wolfsburg or planning a trip for like Oktoberfest or something to go over there, then
oh man, take us with you.
Yeah, it's definitely something I want to try and do eventually, is to get over there and see a game. But I also want to kind of, now that I'm starting to get back into or get into soccer, I don't know if you guys follow that at all, but just trying to get into that a little bit more now and see if a trip over to London is in the near future too. So we'll see.
Yeah, that'd definitely be a lot of fun. A lot of fun though. A lot of fun hockey ahead as Montreal Canadiens and the Boston Bruins are tied right now at 3 in overtime. So we'll see who comes out and wins the first game of that one. Penguins and Rangers tomorrow night, Consol Energy Center at 7 o'clock at Gold Out. Once again for Game 1. So it should be interesting to see. We'll be back on the air next week to discuss what is everything that's going on with the Penguins and Rangers series. And Casey, we'd like to thank you for joining us. It was a pleasure having you on, and hope to have you on again soon.
Yeah, anytime, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir. And that'll do it for the Pens Nation Radio Show. For Nick Richter, Whiskey Johnson, Casey Shea, I'm Andy Hughes. Thank you for joining us on the Pens Nation Radio Show. Hit it, Nick.
Damn, it feels good to be a gangster. A real gangsta-ass player plays his cards right. A real gangsta-ass player never runs his mouth, cause real gangsta-ass players don't start fights. The player's always got a high cap, showing all his boys how he shot him. A real gangsta-ass player don't flex nuts. Real gangsta-ass players know they got 'em. And everything's cool in the mind of a gangster, cause gangsta-ass players think deep. Up 365 a year, 24/7. Gangsta-ass players don't sleep. And all I gotta say to you, gonna be corn-fed, beer-drinking pranksters, is when the fire dies down, what the hell you gonna do? Damn, it feels good to be a gangster.